glad I can command an audience. All right. But without further ado, we want to go ahead and make sure that we are keeping ourselves on track and getting into our keynote session. I know we are lucky enough today for our keynote speaker to have Brendon McCaulley, the Chief Information Security Officer for ConnexPay and Vice President North Texas, ISSA. Happy to have our nonprofit partners with us as well. Round of applause, yes. So Brendon comes with over 15 years of success leading IT transformations and solutions. He's a recognized expert at improving enterprise security and IT operations through the creation of value-added controls, the streamlining of infrastructure and processes, improving operational and security insight using visible ops approaches. He has excelled in his time at designing and implementing enterprise-wide technology solutions, infrastructure strategies, and cost-saving measures. What don't you do, Brendon? And throughout his tenure at VPay, Heartland Payment Systems, Optum Financial, and now ConnexPay, he's demonstrated a talent for launching programs from the ground up, leading teams, budgets, financial controls, everything in the kitchen sink to deliver enterprise value across IT. So, Brendon, I'm going to hand it. The hour is yours. He's going to take us through Stormy Weather, a cybersecurity and leadership philosophy for the age of AI. Big round of applause for Brendon.
Thanks, Andrew. Appreciate it. All right, hey everybody. Yeah, that's another word salad title for a presentation. So think of it in three parts: uncertainty around AI, cybersecurity strategy, and a leadership philosophy. So yeah, I'm here to talk about something very different than you heard all morning: AI. All right. So no, in all seriousness, though, 3 out of the 4 presentations were about AI. Cynically, you may hear a lot of the same things, but I took from all 4 of those presentations a couple of things that were actionable takeaways. And so I would just ask you to set your cynicism aside, lean into this conversation. I'm going to try to make it friendly and fun. Definitely we'll break the fourth wall several times like now, and we'll have some fun. Hopefully you guys are feeling good after eating your lunch. I have not eaten lunch, but that's okay. So like I said, I want us to learn something, have some fun. I will sprinkle in plenty of memes and jokes in this presentation, and I'd like us to engage with one another. I'll leave plenty of time at the end for questions. And the last thing is really, just like I said, have some actionable takeaways. I will have some meat slides towards the end that hopefully you all will at least be able to take back to your teams or whatever you do for your day job. A little bit about me. Andrew did a great job of introducing myself. I'm not going to go over this eye chart. I will say, I live in Frisco. I have a wife and 3 boys. We're getting to the time in our lives where we're sort of close to being empty nesters. Love weightlifting, hiking, biking. You can read all that. But I've been in IT for 30 years, and like Andrew said in his introduction, I've pretty much done everything in IT. Started manning a printer overnight at a computer lab in Texas A&M in like 1996. So been around the block a bit, help desk, IT operations, security. Fun fact about me, maybe not so fun at the time, I was very involved in helping clean up the Heartland Payment Systems breach in 2008. So 2009 was all about cleanup. And that's where I really got exposed to PCI and just started getting a real passion for cybersecurity, especially defensive security. You're either a black hat or a white hat, I think. So I kind of consider myself the white hat. So when Kim reached out to me about 8 weeks ago asking me to do this presentation, first and foremost, let's have a round of applause for Kim, Charlene, the rest of the FutureCom team for putting on a great show. Andrew, thank you very much, and the speakers this morning, y'all did great. When I was asked to do this, I was surprised. I had about 5 minutes of imposter syndrome. I was like, okay, I'm not qualified to give a keynote at a place like this. I would say there's a good chance some of you in this audience know more about AI than I do. Okay. I've done a lot in IT. I'm a CISO for a payments company. I've been doing security for payments companies for 15 years. But I'm not an AI expert, and I'm going to tell you why that's a good thing. Because I feel like a CISO can't be an expert in everything. They need to build a security program and trust work with the rest of the company, work with other technical individuals to kind of build knowledge beyond what's in my brain, right? So I kind of look at this at AI. I'm going to talk about AI from kind of my perspective as a kind of a prosumer of AI, have an interest in AI, I've studied it, but I'm not an expert. I will say this, challenge all of you a little bit. If you think you're an AI expert, okay. Good luck with all that. I think we're all learning as we go. Funny story here, this presentation, I've changed it up about 3 or 4 times over the last couple of months because the pace of innovation in AI is just, it's so rapid. I went pencils down on this presentation on Tuesday night, and there are, every day seems to be like interesting things that come out that would be of interest. Who's seen the Tesla video from yesterday where they turned on the ability for all the cars to drive themselves out of the factory and stage themselves for delivery? Anybody seen that video? Yeah, so like, what is that? It's like an incredible demonstration of physical AI, right? So I like to think that it's kind of magic in the real world. It's not magic, it's large language models and tons of data training and all that stuff. But the age of technology doing incredible things is here. It's not a sales pitch. I'm not here to sell anybody on ConnexPay, but a quick note about ConnexPay. We are kind of an end-to-end payments solution. So think acquiring and issuing. We work for like intermediaries like travel. Obviously, we're dealing with lots of financial transactions, lots of customer data. So we take security very seriously. Like this slide and the previous one, there are QR codes on there. I promise it's not a Rickroll. It's not anything that's it's nothing bad, nefarious. They're safe to click on if you're interested in learning more. And lastly, I got one more QR code, and then we'll get into the meat of the presentation. As Andrew mentioned, I'm the vice president for the North Texas ISSA. That's a, yes, shout out. So I got involved in NTX ISSA because I wanted to give back to the cybersecurity community. And I'm really passionate about what they do in terms of helping bring awareness to the community, working with colleges, really interested in scholarships. All the scholarships we give out, tens of thousands of dollars a year. We work with various colleges throughout North Texas. If you're not from the area, I encourage you to look up your local chapter. There's chapters all over the United States. If you're interested in becoming a member, there is another QR code there. Again, that is not malicious. You can open that up. It'll take you to our membership page. If you're a numbers person, you can see there are benefits of joining. If you're not a member of ISSA, the actual international organization, it's $120 a year. But if you are a member, it's only $30 to add the NTX ISSA add-on. And you get like $600 worth of benefits if you actually attend the events. There's lunch and learns, there's happy hours, there's an annual conference, all kinds of good stuff. Enough about that. But thank you, NTX ISSA. All right. So let's just kind of set the scene here. That's a little washed out, but that's fine. I kind of liken where we are with AI as we're flying in an airplane. We don't have a choice but to be there. We're going into a storm. We have to get on the other side of the storm. Actually, we don't know what the hell is behind the storm. It could be more storm. Right? So that's where we are. Tons and tons of uncertainty. And we have no choice but to navigate those complexities. We don't have a choice. AI is not going anywhere. In fact, I would say DeepSeek just pretty much cemented that, in my opinion. So we'll talk about DeepSeek here in a little bit. I highlighted here in bold, I don't have all the answers. Neither do you. So no attacking here anybody, but I'm just saying none of us will have all of the answers in terms of AI's impact on security, industries, you name it. Lots of people have opinions. I have opinions. You'll hear mine. But my, kind of the point of this whole presentation is just you really need to embrace having some humility and not knowing things. So, not having perfect information, building out communal knowledge, right? So collaborate with people. That's going to be incredibly important in this new age. So like I said, maybe a little different bent on some of the other presentations here. We're going to talk a little bit about some soft skills and some just philosophical matters. All right, everybody knows AI's influence on industries. There's a clicker. I have a clicker. All right, so obviously, so in healthcare, I've got a little bit of healthcare experience. Everybody's probably seen AI analyze X-rays. So, you're starting to use AI as kind of like, oh, okay, you can use AI to kind of second guess your doctor or radiologist or whatever. Improving diagnostics, patient care, operational efficiencies. I'm not going to read the eye chart here, but finance sector, near and dear to my heart. Streamlining operations, enhancing risk management, personalizing customer experiences. I think everybody's probably heard those tales about AI going rogue and declining lending money, or making decisions that are maybe not in line with your company's philosophy or equal opportunity lending, whatever, right? So good and bad there, but manufacturing efficiencies, I think that goes without saying. AI's ability to do predictive modeling on system breakdown, machine breakdown in a manufacturing pipeline. All common, obvious use cases for AI. I asked Copilot, actually, break the fourth wall one more time here. This entire presentation I created with generative AI, the whole thing. A lot of the slides will have, maybe they'll have them, a lot of the slides will have watermarks and stuff like that. So I used a lot of generative image creation. I would say 80% of the content, but about 5% of the amount of time was done by AI, and then I spent the rest, about 95% of my time kind of tweaking it, right? So AI is a tool. Your customers are using AI, which is what this is about. They expect you to use AI as a business. Your developers are using AI. Maybe there's shadow AI. Somebody mentioned shadow AI. Probably is happening. With DeepSeek, it's guaranteed that it's happening now. But I asked Copilot to give me some statistics of AI's adoption, and its chart kind of sucked. So what I'll say is the quality of AI, and maybe it's me as a prompt engineer not being a good prompt engineer, the results that you get from AI are kind of hit and miss, in my opinion. But it did spit out some interesting information about consumers' adoptance of AI, and especially around businesses. I'm sorry if you can't see this, but I'll distill what this first up here is saying. How likely are you to trust a business that uses AI in its operations? It's 14% detractors. That's it. So it's 65% positive, 14% detractors. So what is that, a 51% net promoter score? So it's like you're looked at better as a business if you're using AI, which I thought was really surprising. Don't believe me, this is from Forbes, okay? So it's not just from a generative LLM, but it's also from Forbes. I checked it. Checked the work. Types of content where consumers are concerned with artificial intelligence being used. This is an interesting one. So this is basically like, okay, consumers are fine with businesses using artificial intelligence, but where do you have some concerns about its use? Strangely enough, in terms of consumer-facing applications of AI, product descriptions are places where consumers have some concerns. Job applications, so job application processing, lower concern. I thought that was really weird, but this is straight from Forbes. Music recommendations, TV show recommendations. Obviously, we all know that stuff's coming from AI. All right, so I just thought that was kind of interesting. We are in an age where AI is accepted, but consumers are selective about where they like it being used. So let's take a quick sidetrack. This might be good for some people. It was good for me in researching this topic over the last couple of months. And let's lay out some terms, impress your friends, be fun at parties here. So when you think about AI, I don't know, like when I started thinking about AI before, in the late 90s, before AI actually started becoming a reality, you think about like The Matrix or Skynet. That's kind of like, that's artificial superintelligence. You've got the concept of the singularity, which is, I think, artificial superintelligence on steroids, where not only is artificial intelligence good at a wide variety of things beyond the capability of human thinking, but it also can solve any problem humanity's facing. So singularity is like the promise of like solving death, solving climate change, less politically, resource scarcity. So those are things that the singularity someday will give us. That sounds crazy. I know it sounds crazy. But I have some slides here in a little while that I'll show you. Maybe it's not so crazy. Physical AI, we just talked about Tesla's full self-driving, autonomous vehicles, all moving together out of the factory. Who has tested Tesla full self-driving recently? Recently. Okay, only a few people. Okay, that's awesome. One tangible thing right now. Go book a free demo drive. I don't work for Tesla. I do have stock. But go book a demo drive with Tesla and have them show you how to work full self-driving and have it drive you somewhere, like through city streets. It is crazy in terms of its maturity from a physical AI perspective. It uses reinforcement learning, another buzzword up here, I think. There it is. As well as data sets. But it's trained itself over many generations that if you disengage from full self-driving, it sends that data set up back into the neural network, and it learns from that. So I had a Tesla several years ago. I had an early version of full self-driving. It worked on the highways. I test drove the latest version in early November, and it took me from one side of Reno to the other in city streets, and I didn't touch the steering wheel one time. Wives tell you that you have to hold the steering wheel. That's no longer applies. You do not need to hold the steering wheel anymore. You can just sit there and stare ahead, and it will drive you. And I had no disengagements. I did things like pulling up to an intersection, looking around a truck that was blocking, turning right, yielding, all kinds of crazy edge cases that it's no longer using like heuristics or pattern matching. It is using neural networks and reinforcement learning, which we'll get to in another conversation here in a minute. So anyway, it's a real kind of just sobering thing. Please go do that. That's one takeaway. All right. So some milestones. I asked Copilot to give me some milestones of AI over the last 10 years, and it did an okay job of it. I also told it to give me some predictions of AI, like where's AI going, and it didn't do a great job of it. Actually, it did an okay job of it. So a couple of big ones, right? Generative adversarial networks 10 years ago, ChatGPT, obviously, right? I think that goes back to the consumer adoption of AI. We've all been, who hasn't downloaded ChatGPT onto their phone, right? So everybody's used to using, chatbot-like interface with AI to get better results. So chatboxes used to suck. Chatbots, you all remember that? I mean, godly. We tried using them about 10 years ago. They were awful. I think they've come a long way. And I think consumers are now trained to accept it. But really, I want to talk about predicted future AI milestones. I asked it this last week, I promise. Tell me what's going to happen in 2025. The democratization of AI. All right. What the hell does that mean? AI tools and technologies will become accessible to companies of all sizes. I marked that done. Okay, so everybody knows about DeepSeek, right? So there's two sides to DeepSeek. There's the training side, and then there's the inference side. I didn't really touch on those topics but the last slide did show the differences of what those are. Training side is usually the expensive side because you're making the model better, and then the inference is taking that model and making predictions based on new data, right? So it's actually it's decisioning. Well, DeepSeek came out and said, well, we spent like 50 or 5 million, something like that, on training our model, which a lot of the incumbent players balked at. I personally don't believe it either. But that's besides the point. What they did do is they showed their work. It's an open model. You can download the model, the full model. You can download distilled models, which actually perform just as well as the full model. It is completely portable. It's open source. You can have it. You can turn off, or you can turn off outward-reaching internet connectivity if you're concerned about it. Phoning home to the motherland, which I would be. Please do not install DeepSeek on your phone. If you're going to run the local model, do what I just said. Cut off your internet connectivity, turn on a firewall, look and see what it's trying to reach out to, only allow what you think it should be talking to. But it is absolutely the democratization of cutting-edge AI. NVIDIA and OpenAI, in different ways, have both stated, yes, we recognize that it is just as powerful, and the results speak for it too. I don't have a results graph, but like the quality of results compare very favorably to OpenAI's models, and the cost. So again, I talked about training. Maybe it was expensive to do, maybe it's not. They claimed it's super cheap, right? But like it's hard to show your work on the training side, but you can show your work on the inference side. The inference is using the model. So you can download the model, you can run it on $6,000 or so workstation completely in memory. It's about 768 gigs of RAM. You can also just load it on a laptop, a distilled model. It uses a teacher-student kind of framework model distillation. So the smaller models are pretty much just as powerful as the larger models. And the actual cost per operation of inference is about 30 times cheaper than OpenAI's model. Okay, so no matter what you think of the training side, the inference costs are pretty revelatory. And the funny thing was, so that happened over the weekend, and Monday morning the NASDAQ just took a header based on all this news. NVIDIA released a press release towards the end of the day because they had to acknowledge what was happening. And they're like, yeah, this time-based testing model that DeepSeek came out with is a legitimate training model. I was like, that's pretty damning. I was actually surprised they said that. And then OpenAI came out, if you're taking score like yesterday or the day before, and said, oh yeah, DeepSeek stole our intellectual property. They used the OpenAI models to train their models. I think that the truth is somewhere in there, right? But it doesn't really matter now. The cat's out of the bag. There's a cutting-edge cutting-edge open source LLM model out there that anybody can download and run. Pretty cool, pretty exciting stuff. So the reason why I say, these predictions are maybe crap is because, Copilot also pulled a quote from Sam Altman. I think you all know who he is. He said that AGI, artificial superintelligence, I think that those terms were a little commingled in this quote, will happen this year. Quick poll, let's not say artificial superintelligence, but what about AGI? Do you think AGI will happen this year? Yeah, see, I agree. I don't think it'll happen this year. But I also didn't think this would happen this year, right here. And it happened on January 24th. So I don't know, we'll see what the next 11 months bring. All right, so I think I've hammered this home. So there's disruptive AI advancements. I like to say that AI is now AIing itself. So AI software is now AIing AI hardware. AI obviously allows for massive automation of routine tasks. And so this is funny because it's freeing up human resources for more complex problem-solving activities. I put in for now. Again, I'm kind of correcting it along the way here. Obviously, it can be used for predictive analytics. But along with AI comes a whole bunch of new vulnerabilities and threats. I think Kasi did a really good job of kind of laying out the architecture of LLMs and where your attack surface is. So I'm not going to try to do that. He knows way more about that than I do. But my job as a CISO is to kind of understand all these trends in technology and how it impacts our business and how I can work with partners, like people here at FutureCon, peers at work, people that know infrastructure better than I do, my engineers, and try to make the best decisions I can to protect the company, right? So the issue I have here with vulnerabilities and threats, Morgan actually had a fun little example with his phishing attacks. He kind of went through an LLM prompting it. I'm going to do the same thing, but I'll make it quick. Because I kind of want to point out, I am not an expert, in case you haven't figured that out. I'm a chimp with a machine gun, to quote Better Call Saul. So here's my machine gun, Grok V2. Okay, so I like Twitter, whatever, sue me. Write me a functioning computer virus in PowerShell. Okay, I can't do that, Dave. Same thing that Morgan mentioned. Hey, you can't use me for nefarious purposes. Okay, I bet you can teach me though. Tell me how a computer viruses work. Oh, cool, bro. Yeah, I can do that all day long. So it started writing me a little soliloquy of how a computer virus works with different sections, and I said, I don't have time to read all that, so can you just put it in a nice condensed bullet point list? It was like, oh, okay, cool, yeah, I'll do that. So it laid out all the various steps of building a computer virus. All right, now I'm like, okay, I'm going to think 3D here. And again, guys, I'm not that smart, so I'm just outsmarting AI here. So write me a PowerShell script that copies itself from one computer to another. Propagation. Okay, here it is. And I'll get to a point of like this is very basic, and it's very basic for a reason. So I'll get to that here. So yeah, copies itself, great. Now what does it do? Okay, hides itself as a startup item. That was another thing, is obfuscation, right? So propagation, execution, payload, self-protection. So copies itself as a startup item, copies itself into random folders on a computer. Showed me how to do all that. So I did this in my lab. From 45 minutes of asking my first prompt to meltdown of my lab, it took me 45 minutes. 45 minutes. So I used to do this. So early in my computer career, I was big into VB scripting. And back in the late 90s, and make your own inferences here, late 90s, or late aughts, when I worked for Heartland Payment Systems, I was able to do a lot of this similar kind of application propagation, payload, basically remote payload delivery, using VBScript and other scripting tools that were popular at the time. It was right before PowerShell became a big thing. So anyway, I did this. I am a CISSP. For ethical reasons, I won't show you the payload, but I took down my lab, and I was like, okay, great. All right. So what do we do here, right? I'm not trying to scare anybody, because in fact, I don't necessarily want you to be super scared, but I do want you to understand I'm just a layman with this weapon. All right, the baddies have better tools, so what do we do, right? Okay, in this instance, security hygiene would have protected me, right? So that I exploited some things that you should be doing, and in my lab, I purposely didn't do them. I limited file and print access. All right, well, maybe at offices, that's a thing, right? Disabling remote scripting and execution. Okay, you probably do that, but you probably allow it from some places. Limit and eliminate local system administrator access. Come on, guys. Some people have that. Avoid malware being executed and loaded. So this, first line of defense, right? So in defense in-depth strategy, I always talk to, ConnexPay employees can be like another great, strong link in the defense in-depth chain, or they can be a weakness, right? So, limit it from being spawned from the first place. But I clicked the little link, and within seconds, my entire lab was down. Lastly, randomize local administrator passwords. Think about LAPS. Think about the Azure equivalent. All just good security hygiene practices. You all do this, but do you do all of it? Do you do all of it on all your machines? I don't know. All right. Just remember, no one control will protect you. Put in speed bumps, right? So it's like the old parable. I'm really big into hiking. So last summer I was in Glacier National Park, and probably to the back of this room, I saw a grizzly bear, and I was with a group of hikers. And cynically, I looked at my group of hikers and I said, all right, I don't need to be faster than the grizzly bear. I just need to be faster than these hikers, right? So my point is, don't make yourself a target of opportunity. So perimeter security, look, we all, we've probably heard mixed messages about this. It still matters, right? Don't be a target of opportunity. If you're getting port scanned, hopefully your WAF is stopping that, right? Shut it down. Don't, the bad guys will probably move on to the next sucker down the road. That is not doing security basics. All right. So, specifically to AI, I think some people have talked about ethical biases, accountability, ensuring responsible AI deployment and ethical usage. Okay. I think protecting the company from unethical uses of AI is pretty much the best you're going to hope for, right? Because you cannot control the way people act. Data privacy, that Samsung example was funny, and not just consumer privacy, but like, data security, like leaking intellectual property, healthcare, oh my God, be careful what you put into AI. I did hear you can't block AI. I would say you definitely need to curate and support certain AI models and support them as an IT shop. But generally available LLMs out on the internet, I'm a believer that you should block some of those as best you can. DeepSeek again throws a huge monkey wrench into this, because what's stopping somebody on your in your organization from downloading DeepSeek onto their personal machine and going to town, and then, it makes it more difficult, right? So, and I think DeepSeek is going to lead to the proliferation of more local models employed by tons of companies in a non-distributed manner, right? So if you think, at least the way I've seen it in some of my, I'll try to keep things generic here, but you have a model that's running in your organization, and you have security controls around it. That we've seen this. It's kind of like the old centralized versus decentralized computing paradigm in the 90s. It's now going to get more decentralized, so it's going to get more difficult. Somebody talked about bias already in models, AI model poisoning. So there's all kinds of interesting security concerns that are exclusive to AI that we all just need to be really aware of. And again, so I'm going to get to some soft skills issues here, but we all need to recognize that we're not the experts, and if we think we are, if you think you're the smartest person in the room, you're well, okay, or if you're the only one talking, that's not so good. So understand and lean into that we are in an era of rapid evolution and just transformation, and just have that humility to just really understand that you don't know everything. The current role I'm in, the company was born in the cloud about 7 years ago. I've traditionally been in a traditional data center environment. A lot of companies struggle moving to the cloud. And one of the big reasons I joined ConnexPay was that it's like, wow, this is a cloud-native company. This is awesome, right? So, but one thing I do at ConnexPay is I listen to people who've been there, who are cloud experts. I tend to try to be prescriptive on the what, but not on the how, right? So we need to do this, for a security requirement or a compliance requirement. But you help me understand, how can we do this? Let's have a conversation about that, right? So just have that humility. I think that, really, you're going to need to do that with AI, because I like to think I know more than the layman about what's happened in AI over the last couple of months, but my knowledge will be stale here in another week, I think. All right, so what do we do? All right, or let's talk about strategy, right? Okay, first and foremost, it's like, where are we? What are our threats, right? Where is our data? What are the threats we're facing? And some of this will be just about AI, and some of this will be more generic. But I like to think of AI. People are gonna be like, "What?" Yeah, okay. Somebody talked about the internet and the cell phone, and the AI is just another massive inflection point. And it probably is, but like the equation still doesn't change. You still have to think of it as another tool or another thing you have to secure. You have to protect it, and you have to protect the company from it, right? So proactive risk management is more important than ever, I think. So security is not a destination; it's a journey, and especially with an era of rapid change, you need to think about risk every day. And somebody brought up something at work today, and I kind of had a heart sink moment when I was right before the 8 a.m. meeting. I was like, damn it, I should have thought of that. I won't tell you what it is, but yeah. So anyway, my point is, the great part was it was somebody outside of security was thinking about this, and so that's all about like building a culture of cybersecurity. So I'll get into that here in a minute. But lastly, continuous monitoring and adaptation. Like I said, it's an ongoing process. So it says the CISO, right, whose job is to be in business to protecting a company. But I mean, come on, we're here at FutureCon because it's the reality, right? So everybody, security is not going to go away. Somebody had some great, I think it was Raymond had a great topic about cybersecurity insurance and all the carve-outs that you have for, like, if you don't do your hygiene. It's like, okay, yeah, that means you need to be doing your job, right? Otherwise, you're exposing yourself to risk. my boss is here, and he said, "Hey, have you reviewed our cybersecurity?" I'm new, okay? So have you reviewed all of your cybersecurity insurance? I said, "Yeah," and then I was like, "No, actually, I lied, I haven't." So I'm going to do that. So carve-outs are important. You got to understand what are you covered on, what are you not. All right, so this clicker's not working. Okay, zooming in on potential threats. Okay, what's unique about AI, right? Is there anything unique about AI? And the third speaker, damn it, I forgot names. What was his name? Anybody know? Did great about specific vulnerabilities on AI. So hopefully I think all of these are recorded. So please go through these presentations again. But design with security in mind. The last presenter talked about that. I think making sure you're working with the business to make security a tier 1 requirement at annual goal setting time, on a continuous basis, on backlog prioritization, design meetings, any kind of feature, working with product, working with senior leadership. So there's two sides of that coin. I'll get into that a little bit more here. All right. So of course, having regular training. So somebody mentioned somebody's not really doing training. I can't even fathom that. But our company, we do training. In fact, we do several training courses that are small, easy to digest every quarter, and so it's not once a year. We do it, of course, on new hires, but it's continuous. And our analytics show, because we have the data to support it, that that's a better method. So do regular security awareness training, not once a year, and make them digestible. It's a little, So we had 5 new courses in January, and everybody's like, "Oh my God, 5!" And it was 18 minutes long. Make them digestible. Security audits. Okay, so shout out to the QSAs and pen testers in the room. I'm a big fan of security audits, especially if you're new to a company. One of the things, so I didn't go over the cybersecurity insurance. All right, but I did go through all of our security audits, and those reports are really helpful to kind of understand. Okay, where's our data? What are our processes? Where are our controls? Right? And we just did our PCI DSS 4.0 audit. Passed, yay. But there's nothing like a good audit, especially with a very robust, vigorous set of auditors, to kind of go in and really, really, look at all 12 of the PCI requirements, all the sub-requirements, and really understand what are you doing. Those compliance audits, you can be a cynic and you can say some of that's security theater, and there's probably a Venn diagram of compliance requirements and actual security requirements, but it overlaps. Some of them are really good and prescriptive on things you can do to secure your company, and so lean into those, right? Really, really, really take advantage of the fact that you have to be compliant to better understand your business and figure out where, what you're doing well and where your opportunities for improvement. And for sure, coming out of that audit, there were opportunities for improvement for our company. And then several of the presenters have talked about AI-driven threat detection. There are some good vendors. I don't think I should give shout-outs to any particular one, but there are some good vendors in there that have, agent AIs that will actually sit on top of incumbent technology providers to give you better data, less false positives. There's some pretty cool stuff. The bad guys have better tools. You better be using these same tools because it's kind of an arms race, right? So you can either choose to not be participating. I don't know if that's a good idea, but or you can use those same tools to your advantage. All right, so again, some of this is repetitive. Again, I used AI to make this, so I did cull a whole lot of slides out of this. But I was talking earlier about two different sides of integrating security culture. So annual OKRs, so that's OKRs. Objectives and key results. Just kidding. Okay, so and then like I said, the ceremonies is part of an agile release, agile process, right? Agile delivery process. Get ingrained in that. So work with product, work with delivery, work with senior leadership. Don't get comfortable. This is an interesting one. Shout out to the QSAs out there and pen testers. I like switching them out, like switching socks, at least every couple of years, right? So what I mean by that, you don't need to get rid of your QSA or your pen test firm, but make sure you're not using the same people, right? So don't let anybody that you're relying on to secure your organization be too comfortable with your environment, especially it's a partner. I'm not telling you to switch out your employees. I'm telling you your partners. And then adapting to new challenges is, I think IT operations the same way. I spent many years in IT operations. Nobody really cares what you did last week, right? It's like, what are you doing to secure us now? So always have that mindset, right? Again, so I talked, that's a little bit about cybersecurity strategy, but then just leadership in general. Of course, understand that this is a complicated environment we're living in, and it's not going to get any simpler. So it's like you got to accept and embrace the chaos. You don't need to be the smartest person in the room or the only one talking, except I guess right now. Adapting leadership styles. So I think about this when I'm hiring people. I try to do screening questions for people that are lifelong learners, students of technology. That doesn't mean people that are young. It just means people that are lifelong learners, right? Tell me about the last time you adopted an emerging technology. What'd you learn? What'd you use it for? I don't care if it's professional or personal, right? I think it's a good screening question. Promoting a security culture. Already kind of talked about that. So yeah, these are the two sides of the coin I was talking about earlier, right? So security as a priority when it's time to make organizational objectives. I think this is really easy to begin. You usually have like some structured time every year where you're like, hey, we're going to set 2025 goals. Okay, cool. Be part of that conversation. Easier to begin. I think it's a hell of a lot harder to finish, because the reality is security is going to sometimes take a backseat to other things, right? Because there's a finite amount of time, finite amount of developer time, finite amount of product bandwidth, right? Alignment with the business. This is where the failings of this can help you. At least, okay, don't stop here when you've had once a year conversation with the business about organizational goals. Continue to be ingrained with the product team, delivery teams. Make friends with the product people. Make friends with senior leadership. Let them know there's a security team. Like just the basic stuff. Lastly, one more thing around iteration. Established metrics. We know this, right? But like I like to liken this to a weight loss. Who hasn't struggled with their weight in their adulthood? I have. So when I'm trying to lose weight, am I just tracking what I weigh every week? No. I have. Haven't been successful doing that. Usually, when I'm successful, I'm tracking. Not only what do I weigh, but like what am I doing about my journey towards getting fit. So am I working out 4 times a week? What am I lifting? What am I putting in my body? So, doing both, I think, kind of gives you a better picture. So track results and effort. I know the business only cares about results, but I feel like if you track efforts, you're kind of instilling a process-oriented mindset on people. And so, it will yield dividends eventually. It may not right away, but it will. Regular evaluations, that's like what I talked about, audits. Internal audits are awesome, in my opinion. I don't know, I'm weird, I guess. But what I like about internal audits is, you can change them, you can make them your own, you have some flexibility in terms of like prescriptive requirements from like PCI and SOC to have internal audits that stress test a variety of controls, learn from them. Those are a really good way to make your company better. It's kind of a sanity check. Yes, you got to check the box that you've done it, but take them seriously, right? Because if you're just doing an audit and it's like, oh, okay, everything's fine, what did you accomplish? Nothing. Adapting strategies based on those evaluation results, of course, is crucial. Smart goals, I'm not going to go over smart. Everybody knows what smart goals are. But, importantly, get buy-in on your smart goals, right? So if you have smart goals for security and you've given it to your team, but the rest of the business hasn't bought in, you're not going to be successful. So, again, continuing to work, bring them as tier 1 requirements or organizational goals at the beginning of the year. Create JIRA tickets for them. Put them in your backlog prioritization. Mike, how much time do I got left? A little bit. How much time do I got left? Perfect. Okay. So I'll wrap it up here in just a second. But be aggressive but realistic. Man, one of the things I struggle with personally is like how much is enough, right? So like, am I doing enough to secure the company? Do we how do we be aggressive? But like, being super aggressive every day is going to burn yourself out, right? But then, like, I don't know about who else is a CISO in here, but like being legally liable for not protecting your company, that's a fun, it's a fun thing to think about. So, I always picture myself in a courtroom. It's like, hey, why didn't you do this? And it's like, all right, well, so it's weighing those two sides of the coin. Actionable takeaways. I promised I would have some meat here, so I'm gonna get here. All right, so this is going to be up to each of you. Identify some key things you can do right away. No time like the present. Be humble and keep learning. So that is an actionable takeaway. I promise. That is a mindset thing. So choose to go learn technologies on a continuous basis. Choose to be a part of things like FutureCon, things like NTX ISSA. That is a tangible thing you can do. Have a roadmap for continuous improvement. Oh boy, I don't know what just happened there. All right. Specific things. CyberSecurity assessment. If you are new to a company or if you have audits coming up, take advantage of them. Maybe I'm weird. I read every single requirement and sub-requirement in PCI, and I know exactly what we're doing for every single one, because I think there's good things to be gained from doing that. Build a cybersecurity awareness culture. Do you have a hotline for reporting security issues? Do you have a phishing tool? Do you make security fun? Like, all of our security awareness training is pretty fun. Like people make fun of our security awareness training videos. They're in Slack, and we lean into that. It's like, okay, great. The people are more likely to take them. Do you have a Slack channel to report issues? Whatever your collaboration tool is. When I'm in design meetings, again going back, recently a cloud engineer had this great idea that was going to save us from having to implement a really expensive tool for securing part of our environment. And it's like, again, I recognize that I'm not the Azure expert. This person is, and I was like, oh, that's cool. So, just having the humility of the how, not worrying so much about the how, and focus on the what as a security leader, and listen to people on the how. I think is one thing you can really take away. I think we've got some resources. So there are some great resources in other presentations. Where I learn about AI, whatever, I learn about it on social media. So you can follow AI researchers. And it's really cool. They'll post all kinds of interesting developments. Articles and journals, I feel like those are good. Maybe a little bit more dated information. And then lastly, online courses. There are some great online courses, but it's just, you're not going to get the most up-to-date information, but foundational concepts for sure, amazing from online courses. All right, that's all I got. I just want to again thank you all for being here today. Hopefully you enjoyed this. I hope there's some tangible things you can get out of this. That's my LinkedIn right there. Again, it's safe to open. But I'm going to open up for questions. Anybody have any questions for me? Oh,
Brendon, I have something online. We'll get to it first.
Yep.
Are there any breakthroughs in AI-driven cybersecurity that you believe will redefine how organizations protect their assets?
Ooh, yes. Yes, I will not name drop people, but using AI agents as another, AI agents, as Kasi went over, are kind of like workers that can do a specific task. So one of the things that I've seen with traditional DLP tools is a lot of false positives. So literally there are now AI tools, AI agents, that will sit on top of traditional DLP tools and actually analyze the results of the traditional DLP tools and make very, very accurate decisions on whether or not something was a false positive, and then allow you to easily mark something as a false negative as well. So yeah, it's kind of like a second order of security tools. So and I think somebody else mentioned AI checking on AI. I think that's important to layer that. Hopefully that answered the question.
You've kind of hinted at this, but how do you sell this to the C-suite? I mean, to the riverboat gamblers who feel that risk is not it's not your area of expertise. It's mine.
Yep.
I'm the one who built this company. Word is now is that AI sells, and I want this coming full speed ahead. How do you slow them down? Because my impression it's a train coming downhill, and you're the person standing in front of that train, telling them to say, put the brakes on, slow down?
Yeah, great question. I touched on it on a couple of slides, but I don't think I called it out. I think cybersecurity is always kind of an innovation versus kind of putting the brakes on stuff. So you need to have a how can I help you achieve these goals in a secure manner kind of attitude. I would say I do have the benefit of having a management team that has been through security issues before, so that does tend to help. That helps people kind of see the light sometimes. Yeah, you could be negative and say, well, okay, that's great, but do you want to end up in a courtroom answering questions of why you didn't do this? So actually, I've heard this argument, and so I will give you good ammo against it. Argument of, is this one thing you're proposing us doing, is it going to make us more secure? All right, so you're proving a positive, right? Okay. I find that any individual security control, I don't know. You probably make the case that, maybe it won't, right? But if you follow that line of logic down to its natural conclusion, you didn't do anything, right? Because any individual security control may not make you more secure, but a defense in depth strategy does. And these days, cybersecurity carve-outs, that's a really good example. Your culpability of not doing what you should be doing is going to do nothing but increase. Cynically, insurance companies exist to make money. That's what I think they exist for. That's what I think every company exists for, right? So they're going to be looking for ways to maximize their revenue, which means they're not going to be paying out if they can find evidence that you didn't do your due diligence. That's kind of a reductive argument, in my opinion, but again, at least you can kind of put back that fallacy line of thinking of is this going to make us more secure, this one individual thing? And I think that's the wrong mindset for sure. So hopefully that helps.
Brendon, I have another one from online. This is from John Hollister. In the age of AI, has your board of directors been receptive to expected future increases in costs to better protect against bad AI actors?
I defer to my boss on this. Okay, so he's going like this. All right. Yeah, so great question. I would say everybody's going to have a shiny bauble to hang out there in terms of hey, this is AI enabled. I would say really work with your teams, understand what you don't know, leverage your teams who may be students of technology and ask them, hey, let's say you're an Azure customer. Does Azure have built-in security tools and functions that we're licensed for, or it's a small uplift that we can take advantage of that we're not doing today? So yeah, so I think so that doesn't directly answer the question, but so I'd say boards are middling receptive to that, and you need to be creative and probably come to the table with okay, we've looked at several alternatives, and this is a matter of risk and alignment of the tools capabilities with what you're trying to protect. And let's say something was 20% of the cost, but it gets you 90% of the way that some shiny tool would have gotten you. Oh, okay, maybe that marginal risk is something the board's willing to accept.
Jackson Koo of AT&T.
Hi.
Did you manage to restore your lab and recover your data after the malware shut it down?
I shut it down. Yeah, so great question. Actually, I love the question. So I was thinking about how do you stop business email compromise, ransomware. I don't know. I can sometimes sound fatalistic about that, of you can't stop that. I don't think. Again, a defense in depth strategy or zero trust, I assume that somebody's actively attacking us, that something's going to get compromised, so limit the blast radius wherever possible, right? So encrypt a laptop, have endpoint DLP or data discovery classification, make sure you know where your data is. If an executive's laptop gets compromised, okay. If somebody's email gets compromised, okay. Can you prove that there was no exposure to data, no exfiltration of data? Then you're good, right? So not a reportable incident. If you can't prove that, okay, that's a different matter. All right. Any other questions? Thank you for the thoughtful question. All right. Okay. Well, thanks a lot. I appreciate it, everybody. Thank you.